Hi there, welcome back. My name is Sheldon McLeod, and this is Thinking Out Loud. It's presented to you here exclusively by the Saltwire Network. And over the years, I've had a lot of opportunity to meet labor leaders, people who are involved with negotiating with government for contracts, for fair wages, for benefits, for those types of scenarios. And here in Nova Scotia, there's a long-standing history of very strong union leadership. I remember first time meeting Joan Jessam with NSGEU years ago, and then her replacement, Jason McLean, who obviously had taken another role just recently. But I want to talk a little bit more about healthcare through this lens. Media release that just came out a few days ago. Support Services Bargaining Unit reaches a tentative agreement with the Health Authority and with IWK. We're talking about three unions here who are negotiating on behalf of Unifor, NSGEU, or the members of, and CUPE Local 8920. And it's a real pleasure for me to, for the first time, publicly speak with Sandra Mullen. And it's so nice to see you, President Mullen.
Thank you, Sheldon. Nice to meet you.
Tell me a little bit about this role and your way through this particular scenario as someone who is now in charge of one of the largest unions in Nova Scotia.
Well, Sheldon, I've been involved definitely at this gig for the last 6 years as first vice president with Jason McLean as president. And so seeing how things played out in the healthcare locals, we've been working together with that. Definitely, this was a bit of a different role for me. NSGEU is not the lead table on this actual contract agreement that we've come up with, but we have the majority of workers in that sector. Mm-hmm. So it's been challenging negotiations, and we've worked hard. Our chief negotiator worked right through till midnight Monday night. So it was a long battle, and we believe we were able to achieve a fair contract enough to recommend it to our members.
And by that, membership votes to ratify the contract. That's the way that democracy works. And do we have a deadline or a timeline yet?
We're just meeting with the telephone town hall tonight with our members, because as you mentioned, there's two other unions at play here. So by the time we all work out an actual start and voting day finish, we're talking early September. So it's a process that we will be going through, but we launched this with our members tonight.
When we talk about healthcare and in Nova Scotia specifically, we have a government now that was elected on a promise to fix the system and the solutions that are being offered. There was some talk earlier about adding extra shifts to help bring in perhaps more opportunity for people to get into the healthcare system. But sounds like it's a lot of people that are needed. What's NSGEU's position on where we're at with this fight with healthcare and capacity?
Well, as you mentioned, this government came into to power saying they were going to fix healthcare. So we are certainly willing to work with them to do what's best for our members, for healthcare, and for the Nova Scotia taxpayer. Healthcare is in crisis in this province, and our members in this sector, in the support services, are some of the lowest paid in that hospital. We believe we've achieved some good things for some of that sector, and it will be used as a recruitment and retention tool because, as you know, you can pretty much go anywhere and find a job. So Nova Scotia Health is no different than any employer desperate for staff. Our members who are working short-staffed need those positions filled. And in order for folks to stay in the jobs they're in, they need both good living wage, especially in today's climate of inflationary cost everywhere. It's just important, and filling the positions will help enable those folks to have vacation and have some time away.
There's this talk about cooperating across the Maritimes, across Atlantic Canada, but there are jurisdictional issues with licensing and with the colleges of physicians and doctors and nurses. And I'm wondering, is that above or beyond the scope or reach of the labor unions?
No, I think we're working together to ensure that we do the best for Nova Scotians in order to recruit, whether it's in a licensed program or certified or whatever. But, some of the sector that we're talking about here in support services are the folks who clean the ER and the ORs, food services. These folks, really have been the people coming into work every day and keeping that hospital running. So it's critical that they're paid a living wage, and I believe that we've achieved some good language in this contract.
On the first anniversary of becoming Premier, Tim Houston did point to doctor recruitment, nurse recruitment, and when we talk a little bit about capacities within systems, the beds are not beds. Beds are patients. When it comes to a lack of beds, that means access is being hampered for folks who are in real need. And there's a suggestion that maybe there's a place for a private or a secondary way, or if people can afford to pay. And people call that the slippery slope of privatized healthcare. And I'm sure I know what your answer is, but as a union, how do you address that? How do you make sure that the wishes of your membership in the province are heard and respected?
Well, it goes without saying that we promote public-funded, publicly delivered healthcare. I believe I've seen this morning that the Minister of Health is on record indicating that she too believes in a publicly funded and publicly delivered healthcare system. So we plan to hold government accountable to that. We will work with all of our healthcare unions here in the province and with the Federation of Labor to deal with just that matter alone. We need to ensure that our healthcare is publicly funded and publicly delivered. So, we are totally against seeing an eradication of that healthcare system by private clinics being operated here in the province.
I know with the previous, with this Nova Scotia government, with Tim Houston saying, some people were not being perhaps treated as fairly, and personal care workers, for example, were given a substantive raise. Well, what's the impact though? Because there's this idea that for some folks, labor unions are an obstacle, something to overcome. And when you have one union who is recognized quite openly by the Premier of being undervalued, does that make it harder or easier for you to make that case for other workers?
Well, I'm not going to say anything about this role is easy, but definitely we have seen some progress by this government in addressing the issues we have been raising for years. The underpaid sector with the CCAs, absolutely. The wages were one part of that. We are still proceeding with guaranteed hours of work. That's a little complicated in that sector because it's more than just the wage. However, by increasing the wage there, it has really outlined all the other sectors who are underpaid. And so everyone is looking at this. Government wants to fix healthcare. We are more than willing to work with them in what are the best ways to do it. And today, and across the Maritimes and across the country, every sector is desperate for staff. And in order to get that staff here, we need to have a reasonable living wage. He has done very little, and when I say he, the government has done very little to address inflation. The cost of fuel for all of our employees and members to get to work is still a reality. So we have to address all of those issues.
And I guess if I were to ask of you, Sandra Mullen, what is the role of the union in trying to help solve this problem outside of making sure that employees are well respected and compensated? Well,
our employees are who are doing the work. And we listen to what they are telling us in the circumstances they're working in. They've been telling us for years how best to fix that, whether it's the guaranteed hours in the CCA world. Those are the kinds of things that if we can fix those little things along the way, it will help with recruitment and retention. Our employees, our members here know how best to deliver the services, and we try to work with their employer and with their team managers to see where there's improvements that are able to be done. So we're willing to work with them.
It's tough to keep working short if you can't get vacation. Is that still an issue?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, the nursing shortages that we've heard about, they're real. You know, we've hired new nurses, but they're not. There's not enough. We hear that there's still over 1,000 vacancies in nursing alone in this province. So we have a long way to go. And we have a lot of issues at hand as we enter into bargaining into the, you know, the healthcare, the other healthcare sectors. So,
are you an optimist, Sandra?
I like to think that we see progress where we see progress, but we work hard to make sure that they see the issues at hand. And so I do believe we are seeing more positive reaction and cooperation out of this particular government at this point. We have a long way to go and lots of issues that need to be addressed.
Maybe a bit more pragmatic then. I want to thank you for this. Is there anything else you want to add before we
No,
wrap up?
I think we'll chalk that up to I'm new still. How's that?
So it's all good. Sandra Mullen, thank you so much for this. President of the Nova Scotia Government Employees Union, or General Employees Union. I sometimes get confused, but thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.